From the very start of the taping, there was a certain sharpness in Meghan Trainor's smile that didn't quite match the bubbly persona audiences had come to love. Kelly Clarkson greeted her warmly, introducing her as one of pop's most relatable stars. But Meghan's polite wave to the crowd seemed tighter than usual. Backstage, whispers had already hinted at tension something about radio interview. The first few minutes were cordial enough, with Kelly asking about the new album and tour, but when she mentioned the lyric and playfully asked, "So, who exactly were you throwing shade at?" Meghan's smile froze. "Kelly, I don't do shade unless someone really deserves it," she replied, her voice light but her eyes locked on the host. The crowd chuckled, but it was a nervous kind of laughter, sensing the subtle current running beneath the conversation. Kelly shifted in her seat, clearly picking up on the tension but trying to smooth it over with a joke. Meghan didn't laugh. Kelly pivoted to a pre-planned segment about songwriting inspirations, inviting Meghan to share her creative process. But instead of the usual uplifting anecdotes, Meghan leaned forward and said, "Honestly, sometimes I write when I'm angry. When people publicly critique my work without even talking to me first." The words hung in the air, deliberate and pointed. Kelly blinked, then gave a tight smile. "Well, I guess we all see things differently. I was just giving my opinion as a fan," she said, trying to keep the tone light. Meghan shook her head slightly, her voice sharpening. "No, Kelly, you gave your opinion, as a fellow artist who knows how hard we work, and you still chose to spin it into something negative on air." The audience gasped softly, sensing this wasn't just TV banter, it was personal. Kelly's eyes narrowed for a fraction of a second before she regained her composure. But Meghan had already planted the first real blow of the exchange, hoping to de-escalate. Kelly smiled and turned the conversation toward a light-hearted finish, the lyric game the producers had prepared. Meghan hesitated before agreeing, but as the band played, her responses became clipped and half-hearted. When Kelly playfully sang one of Meghan's early hits and teased her about a rhyming choice, Meghan put down her mic and said, "See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You can't just enjoy something, you've always got to poke at it." The room fell silent, except for the faint hum of the stage monitors. Kelly laughed awkwardly, gesturing to the audience. "Okay, well, I think she's calling me out, folks." Meghan crossed her arms, leaning back. "I'm just saying, maybe try building people up instead of taking little digs." The tension had shifted from subtle to unmistakable, and the live audience could feel it pressing in from all sides. Producers exchanged urgent glances from the wings. Kelly, visibly more serious now, leaned forward. "Meghan, you know me well enough to know I'm never trying to tear anyone down. I joke with people I like." Meghan's voice was calm but icy. "Yeah, but some jokes stick in people's heads, and when you've got millions watching, those jokes turn into headlines." The weight of her words seemed to hang over the set. Kelly's hand rested on her mug, knuckles tightening slightly. "If I've ever made you feel that way, I apologize," she said, the words careful but clipped. Meghan gave a small nod, but the atmosphere was far from healed. "Thanks," she said softly, "but sometimes apologies come after the damage is done." The audience murmured uncomfortably, unsure if they were watching a scripted moment or a real breakdown in friendship. The crew, sensing the stakes, hesitated to cut to commercial. This kind of raw drama was ratings gold. But it was also dangerously unpredictable. The producers finally tried signaling for a break, but Kelly ignored them, pressing on with the conversation. "Look, Meghan, I respect you too much to pretend this isn't happening. If there's something you want to say it now." Meghan's eyes met hers, unflinching. "All right, I think you used your platform to make me look like a joke. And for someone who's been through what you've been through in the industry, I expected better." Kelly inhaled sharply, caught between defending herself and keeping her composure for the cameras. "That's not fair," she said finally, her voice firm. "I've celebrated your music since day one. I've brought you on this show multiple times because I admire you." Meghan leaned in. "Then why undermine me when you're off the set?" The question landed like a punch, and Kelly's expression faltered. The audience was riveted, silent, except for the occasional gasp. Kelly's tone grew more direct. "Meghan, you and I both know the media twists things. If you have an issue, talk to me privately. Don't turn my own show into an ambush." Meghan smirked faintly, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Funny, that's exactly what I felt when I saw your interview." Ambushed. The tension was now so thick it was almost hard to breathe in the studio. Kelly's posture stiffened, and she glanced briefly at the cameras, knowing millions were watching. "We can keep going like this," she said slowly, "but I'd rather focus on what you're here to promote." Meghan's shoulders squared. "Maybe I don't want to promote anything right now." A collective murmur rippled through the audience. The unspoken message was clear. This was no longer a promotional appearance, it was a live confrontation. Asterisk for a moment, neither woman spoke, and the silence felt like an eternity. Then Meghan stood abruptly, smoothing the front of her dress. "I think I'm done here," she said, her voice steady but laced with finality. Kelly blinked, startled. "Meghan, wait, let's not end like this," she urged. But Meghan was already stepping away from her chair. "I'm not going to sit here and smile through something that doesn't feel right," she said, turning toward the edge of the stage. The audience erupted into mixed reactions, applause from some, gasps from others. Kelly rose halfway out of her seat, clearly torn between chasing after her guest and keeping control of her live broadcast. Meghan paused only briefly at the edge of the stage, glancing back once before disappearing behind the curtain. Kelly stood frozen for a second, before straightening her posture and turning back to the audience. "Well," she said with a strained smile, "live TV, anything can happen." The crowd gave a polite laugh, but the energy in the room had shifted beyond repair, others scrambling to manage the PR fallout. "I'm fine," she told them tersely, "but I'm not going back out there." Meanwhile, Kelly moved into the next segment with mechanical precision, introducing a musical act as though nothing had happened. Inside, though, she knew the headlines were already writing themselves. Every glance, every word, every gesture from that tense exchange would be dissected before the day was over. Once the show cut to commercial, Kelly slumped briefly in her chair, rubbing her temples. A producer leaned in. "She's left the building," they confirmed quietly. Kelly nodded, though her lips pressed into a thin line. She hated public fallouts, especially when they involved fellow musicians she'd once supported. The rest of the episode went on as planned, but the shadow of Meghan's walkout hung over every moment, even as the cameras rolled on other guests. Audience members whispered among themselves, their minds still replaying the confrontation. In her dressing room later, Kelly sat in front of the mirror, replaying it, too, wondering if there had been a way to diffuse it before it exploded. By the time the episode aired that evening, the internet had already seized on the drama. Clips of Meghan's sharp remarks and her abrupt exit dominated social media feeds. Fans took sides, with some praising her for standing up for herself, and others accusing her of being unprofessional. Kelly issued a brief statement on her own, channels thanking Meghan for coming on and expressing hope they could talk privately in the future. Meghan posted nothing for the rest of the day, letting the speculation swirl unchecked. Behind the scenes, mutual friends tried to reach both women to mediate, but neither was ready to make the first move. In the court of public opinion, their clash was already cemented as one of the most talked about moments in talk show history. A raw reminder of how quickly the glossy surface of celebrity camaraderie can crack under the heat of live television. Morning after the episode aired, entertainment news outlets wasted no time amplifying the drama. Headlines screamed variations of Meghan Trainor storms out on Kelly Clarkson and talk show meltdown goes viral. Every major gossip site ran side-by-side images of Meghan mid-exit and Kelly standing frozen on stage. Social media was a battlefield. TikTok edits slowed down every glare, every micro-expression, claiming to decode the real feelings behind them. Now, turning it into a trending audio used in thousands of videos. In the midst of the frenzy, Kelly's team held a private meeting to discuss damage control. Should they book her on another talk show to address it, or stay silent and let the storm pass? The consensus was unclear. This wasn't just bad publicity. It was the kind that made both women's fans feel personally invested. Meghan, meanwhile, woke up to find her phone flooded with notifications, supportive texts from friends, interviews requests from journalists, and endless tags from strangers who either hailed her as a truth-teller or slammed her for being unprofessional. Her PR team advised